All right, welcome to Quick Show today. My name is Greg Mattson, and I am your host. Today is April 17th, 2026, and we are covering two topics. First of all, Sharon McMahon, the invited speaker for a commencement at Utah Valley University, has been canceled. She will no longer be speaking there. This is a little bit of a surprise to me. I think it's the right thing to do, but I'm surprised they actually did this. Too much backlash, I suppose, for them to keep her there. So she will no longer be speaking. We'll talk about what the reasons actually might be of why she is not speaking. Secondarily, something you may not know, with all of the hoopla and fantastic numbers for the number of conversions for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in 2025, I think it was 384,000, 25, almost a 25% markup from the previous year in 2024. And yet, underneath all of that umbrella of fantastic news, the U.S.'s net number for membership actually dropped in 2025. So we're going to talk about that as well. This episode is brought to you by Go and Do Travel and the Wavemakers Podcaster Cruise. This is November 14th through 21st, a fantastic time. We're going to have Hannah Stoddard, Andrea Woodmansey, Jacob Hansen of Thoughtful Faith, Carden Ellis of Word Radio, Hayden and Jackson Paul from The Stick of Joseph. We've got Jonah Barnes and Aranza Condi and Kevin Prince and many others that will be there, and it's an opportunity to bring that online community together. You'll be with very like-minded people. It's a great time and a fantastic experience. November 14th to 21st, you can find out more and register at quickmedia.com, CWICmedia.com. Go to the top to trips and events and scroll down to Wavemakers. Here we go. Okay, so Sharon McMahon, we covered this earlier in the week, talking about why in the world Sharon was invited for the commencement speech on this. It is one of the most tone-deaf things I have seen in a very long time. Look, Sharon McMahon speaking at a commencement speech just about anywhere else is probably fine. I doubt Hillsdale College would invite her to go, or Brigham Young University. I don't know. Actually, maybe they probably would. But it's the tone deafness here was remarkable. It's not a matter of her politics even, and her self-acclaimed bipartisanship or non-partisanship, as she calls it. It is a matter of her remarks after Charlie Kirk's assassination, and that is the problem. You don't go. First of all, you don't go after somebody and about who they are or what they speak, the same day or a couple of days after they've been assassinated on video in front of the entire world. And you want to qualify this. You are qualifying this because you disagree with things and you're saying that he said hateful things. It's obtuse. It is myopic. It is a ridiculous thing to do for anyone except for the most vile type of person in society. And so someone who claims to be a bridge builder and someone who tries to take a look at how do you bring things together, right? That was not the best example of it. It was hypocritical, and it's not because it was Charlie Kirk even. It's because of what happened. And it happened on the grounds of that, on the campus of that university. So to not understand this is shocking to me, that the university would invite her in as, what is UVU known for above anything else in the world? It is known for the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and probably always will be known for this. So why would you do this? This would be the most important thing in considering who it is that you are going to bring in. And just absolute tone deaf move by the president of UVU and those that were involved in any committee that was involved in bringing her in. So let's just look at this real quick. The reasoning behind this is, I'm guessing very false. I don't know this for sure. Anybody could put this up and no one's going to know for sure. But if we take a look here, this is Axios, left-leaning publication. UVU drops Sharon McMahon as commencement speaker due to safety concerns. This is the positioning of all of this, which I'll be honest, I think is another slap in the face of Charlie Kirk and his family and of those that supported him. And to be clear, just for transparency's sake, I have never been a big Charlie Kirk fan or someone who follows him closely. I think he did a lot of great things. I am very supportive of the fact that he is so young and went out and accomplished so much and was very outspoken on things that he believed in. I didn't always agree in his approach, but I thought that I thought that he did some pretty miraculous and courageous things. But I had barely watched much of Charlie Kirk previous to his assassination. I went in and looked a lot more into him afterward. But I know about him and I know about TPUSA. I've been to their office a few times. It's right here in Phoenix. I know people that work there and have been affected by all of this. So it's not because I'm holding, Charlie Kirk as some iconic figure even. It's not that, and it's not the fact that, that Sharon wouldn't be brought in as a commencement speaker to some other university. But here, after her remarks, no. And people online with their remarks and comments since then, since she was invited and since she was canceled, disinvited here is really what happened, have said many things like, oh, she was just repeating his own words. No, she was qualifying his death. That is what she was doing. She was qualifying it. She was putting an asterisk on the most public assassination in history. That's what she was doing. Days, I think it was 2 days, maybe 2 days after his assassination, maybe even earlier. And that's a problem. Number one, it's highly inappropriate to do this. Highly inappropriate. And second of all, you're inviting her to the same university where he was killed. Now, I want to talk about the reasoning behind this, right? She's dropped as the speaker due to safety concerns. Again, tone deaf to me, absolutely tone deaf. Is she putting herself kind of in the same shoes as, a threat of what might happen there because of what happened to Charlie Kirk after her comments? This is likely, I don't know this, right? I'm going to make that very clear. But there is not a single reference that I have seen to any group or individual where there has been a threat and a legitimate safety concern for Sharon. Now, I'm not saying some idiot online hasn't said something. I mean, those people, look, I do YouTube for a living. Those idiots pop up every once in a while, down in the basement of their grandma's house. So that's possible. But framing this in the way that they're doing this, come on. And putting this in as some type of a safety issue, just like it was a safety issue with, almost referencing and bringing in the entire September event with Charlie Kirk is, I think, also very tone deaf. I think that this is a silly thing to put into place. I think it's another PR snafu, right? It's another PR faux pas that UVU has put into place. Let's go over this article just a little bit and see what they have said here in regards to this happening here. Again, a left-leaning publication. I like going to these publications because you can read through what they do, look at their transparency. I want to see both sides on this. Utah Valley University has dropped educator Sharon McMahon as its commencement speaker after a wave of JOP-led backlash triggered public safety concerns. Okay, the backlash, yes, that is what did this. You had Burgess Owens, you had Mike Lee, you had several organizations that were very upset about this choice. And again, how do you not see this coming? How do you not see this coming? Yeah, I know that I keep going back to this, but it's just hard to understand. It's hard to understand someone is not plugged into social media and to the world that's making this choice. It is blind. It is an absolute blind choice. It goes on. It says the decision was made in coordination with McMahon and public safety professionals, the university said in a statement on Thursday. Maybe, how would I know? I would guess that this was very much more just UVU and Sharon McMahon, and they decided, one of them pushed forward and said this is not going to happen. And it's the right move, as I said in the episode earlier this week. So UVU will no longer have a commencement speaker. The partisan criticisms of McMahon focused on remarks she made on social media about MAGA podcaster. Of course, they're going to throw this in there. MAGA podcaster Charlie Kirk, shortly after he was assassinated on the UVU campus last September. Yeah, well, in since deleted posts, right? Why did she delete them? Here's the question. If this was no problem for those that are making comments about what she commented on shortly after the assassination, why did she delete them? She should have left them up if she was okay with it. She should leave it up and support what she said. But in since deleted posts that angered Republicans, McMahon called Kirk's death horrific. So they put this in place. We see how this is framed here, but said many marginalized Americans did not see him as engaging in good faith debates. Now, notice that they did not quote all of that. It's just good faith debates. So that's the reasoning. There was nothing bad that she said. They don't bring up anything bad about the way she qualified and put an asterisk on his death here, his assassination. They're not going to do that, obviously. So there were a chorus of voices that were out here of Utah's congressional delegation, Turning Point USA. It was Mike Lee and Burgess Owens and college Republicans and others that were fighting against this and did not want her to speak. I want to go here to ABC4 News and talk about this and UVU's statement on this. UVU issues statement on commencement changes amid controversy due to posts about Charlie Kirk. Utah Valley University released a statement following a debate about their chosen 2026 commencement speaker. Quote, due to increased safety concerns related to the speaker and in consultation with public safety professionals and Sharon McMahon, Utah Valley University has decided to proceed without a featured commencement speaker for this year's ceremony. We look forward to coming together as a community to celebrate UVU's largest graduating class in history. Okay, stop and wait for a minute. We look forward to coming together as a community. Well, that'll be easier now. But if that was your goal, this again, why did you make this choice? Not real wise. With more than 13,000, that university is huge. With more than 13,400 graduates, imagine standing in that commencement and attending that commencement. You're going to be there for a while. About 1/3 of whom are the first in their families to graduate from college. Okay, well, again, safety concerns. I don't know that this is really the issue here. You have Republican Representative Burgess Owens called the decision morally bankrupt. I agree with that 100%. Again, if she was at a different university, it doesn't matter. It's not a big issue. And again, if you are a real conservative, you're like, why would you ever invite her anyway? Look, you're never going to get a perfect person to be able to speak at a commencement. She's not an imperfect person that is should not be the person at a different university. If she went to Utah State, what's the big deal? Not a real big deal. I can see some people still protesting, but it's not tone deaf, right? Congresswoman Celeste Malloy posted on X saying the decision to bring McMahon was tone deaf, unbelievably tone deaf. Mike Kennedy issued his own statement, also labeling UVU's decision as tone deaf. Senator Mike Lee released a statement claiming UVU is disrespecting the tens of millions of Americans who are still mourning Charlie Kirk's death. Yes, it is. Again, if you go to a different university, that issue is still there, but it's not the university where he was killed, where these students were there. It is preposterous to do this. Both Turning Point USA Group and UVU and the UVU College Republican issued the following statements condemning the university's choice and calling it an insult. Okay, we've gone over this previously with these statements. She framed a post as an explanation for, this is Sharon, why there is so much backlash to post eulogizing his death. These aren't sound bites taken out of context, she said. She did take them out of context, very much so. Millions of people feel they were harmed, and the murder that was horrific and should never have happened does not magically erase what was said or done. Again, imagine this, if would Sharon do this if this was a left-leaning pundit and there was a backlash on people that were saying something about that, that left-wing pundit after he or she was assassinated, and talking about how they hurt many people and how they were whatever, Marxist or whatever it might be that they might be saying from the right. I don't know. I don't know if that would be the case. I'm just not sure. I want to get to this right here also, because this comes from a spokesperson for McMahon in a release statement that was sent out just 2 days ago, the day before she was canceled. It says, Sharon unequivocally condemned the murder of Charlie Kirk. That is true. She did. She did, but she qualified it, right? Repeatedly and publicly called his death a tragedy and stressing that public debate must never be met with violence. Sharon's goal is to unpack what is happening in society and help people understand how government works. I appreciate that, but that's not what she was doing. That spirit is reflected in her work, bringing together voices from across the aisle in closed-door conversations with her book club community, from Amy Coney Barrett to Kamala Harris, and interviews with Utah Governor Spencer Cox and Nikki Haley and blah, 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 right? Fine. But what happened here was inappropriate. She put an asterisk on his death, and now she's being invited to the commencement speech at the university where Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Deseret News, real quickly. UVU says commencement will no longer feature McMahon amid backlash. State leaders called speaker choice tone deaf and morally bankrupt. We've gone through this. Now, it's interesting because Emma Pitts is the one that wrote about and completely supported Sharon, right? That it was very much a puff piece that she put out when there was backlash on this. I think it came out earlier this week from the same writer here. Utah Valley University, she said Sharon McMahon would no longer appear at the university's commencement ceremonies due to safety concerns. The university released a statement. We've gone through the statement. After UVU named America's government teacher, McMahon, as its 2026 commencement speaker, criticism surged across social media, including among Utah's GOP congressional leadership, who sharply criticized UVU's decision to invite McMahon. I just wonder, even with the Deseret News, why do you always pinpoint, it's true, but you always pinpoint the Republicans or right-leaning or conservatives. But if it's the other way around, you don't say it's left-leaning, it's liberals and progressives. It's very rarely brought up in those cases. The controversy centered around comments she made about conservative activists and Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk just days after thousands witnessed his assassination on the thousands in person, I suppose. Maybe that's what she refers to. Millions and millions, probably hundreds of millions of people, maybe more, witnessed this. On September 12, 2025, 2 days after Kirk's death, in a since-deleted post, McMahon shared multiple quotes of Kirk's with little context, with the caption, "These aren't sound bites taken out of context. Millions of people feel they were harmed, and the murder that was horrific should never have happened. Does not magically erase what was said or done." Again, that's a tone-deaf comment. And then the statement about Sharon unequivocally condemning the murder, many including UVU's Turning Point USA chapter President Caleb Chilcutt described her comments last September as tone deaf. And she goes over these other points here. I will say on these articles that have been coming out here from Deseret News, these have been very odd here in the way they were very one-sided on this. It's disappointing. I'll be honest. It's disappointing in the way that this was covered early on. We're going to go beyond this now with this. I'm glad that this happened. I'm glad that she was dropped. I'm glad she was disinvited on this. I think that it is honestly, it's a black eye for UVU to have done this. Again, still reeling from what has happened this academic year in September. To do this is, these are people that are not plugged in. They don't have their ear to the ground. They don't understand. They are up in these levels up here, 30,000 feet, looking down, seeing things very generically. And yes, they're tone deaf, completely tone deaf to these types of things. And I was a little upset when I did the original episode on this for this very reason. It's just shocking to me that this level of eliteness, I'm sorry, it is eliteness that is blind to something like this. Doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense. All right, I want to go to the membership in the church and what's happening there in the United States. I think most people would be very surprised. I mean, we had the numbers that even in the United States, our conversion rate was high. We had done really well, better than we've done in the past, which is all true. And it's fantastic and love this, right? It's fantastic. Now, I want to put this into context. This is not just a Latter-day Saint phenomenon, right? It is a Christianity phenomenon. There has been a strong turn, especially over the year of 2025 and late in 2024, where there has been an uptick in activity, in baptism, in membership for Christianity as a whole. And Latter-day Saints are enjoying that same upturn, right? There are record numbers for Catholics. There are record numbers, not ever perhaps, but the first in a very long time for Catholics, for the Orthodox. It is all ticking upward right now, which is a fantastic thing that the U.S. is getting more religious over the last year and a half, maybe 2 years now. And so that's a fantastic thing. And of course, it's fantastic that the conversion rate is so high, baptisms are so high for the Latter-day Saints worldwide and in the United States. But the numbers in the United States, the net numbers dropped. And there are a couple of things probably to look at as to why that is the case. But with a large number of conversions in the U.S., overall, that number decreased. So again, let's go in here and take a look at some of this. This is from the Salt Lake Tribune. Latest from Mormon Land. LDS membership drops for the first time in the United States. Right? So this for them, they're saying that this is the first time ever that our net membership has ever dropped. Okay, that is a red flag that is being swallowed up with the excitement over all of the baptisms that we've had. It is the first time that it has ever dropped. Now, I think there are some things to look at with this, but let's go over some of the. First of all, let me back up here. It says the global south is up. Really what we're talking about here, it's not necessarily the global south. It is three areas. And I think that this is an important thing to understand about what's happening with the church, right? Where are the places of greatest growth? It is Africa, Latin America, and the Philippines. All top 10 countries are in one of those three areas. Okay, so let's look at what we have in those areas. We have areas that are not very progressive. They are a lot less secular. Those two go along with each other. They are more family oriented in terms of areas of, they're poverty stricken lands. And so they live with more reality of gender roles. They live with more the reality of economics, of labor. Anytime there is more money somewhere, you're going to find less religion, less commitment. So these are areas that are more conservative. They are more family oriented. I'm not going to say that the families are perfect as far as like the proclamation on the family and tradition. There's certainly a lot of womanizing going on in these areas. There's a lot of, in Mexico, they call it machismo. These things all happen there. So it's not a perfect thing. But they're having kids. They are having kids, unlike the United States. And that makes a big difference, right? There is, okay, are we going to sacrifice for these kids? Do we have to bring them up? It just changes everything. It changes everything. And people in those situations are more susceptible to the gospel, I would say. And if they're not as wealthy, they're going to be more susceptible to hearing the gospel and converting. So that is the future of the church, at least as it looks now. The future of the church, and we can start seeing it in all of this leadership that we've seen in the area presidencies that have been formed. And it's fantastic. It's wonderful. Right? So you see in Latin America, a lot more Latinos that are in those area presidencies, a lot more Africans that are in those African presidencies. Those places are beginning to mature in the church and have even generational, some degree, certainly in Latin America, generational members of the church. Philippines too. Africa is a little less that way. And so this is the future of the church. And let's see what happens going forward. But if the U.S. numbers continue to decline, and I would say I haven't looked at Europe as far as a net number, because those numbers have gone up also in baptisms, which is exciting. It's fantastic. But I don't know what the net number is there. Have those dropped? Have those stayed about the same regardless of the conversions, the baptisms that have happened in Europe? But the future is in Latin America, Africa, and in the Philippines. Those are where the leaders are going to come from. Those are where the baptisms are coming from. That's where the new wards, the new stakes, the new missions are all being formed. It is interesting to see that. And you have to ask yourself, again, are we seeing the sunset of the day of the Gentiles? That's a little hard to swallow, if that's the case. It's pretty hard to swallow. And yes, there's still the charge that the Ephraimite Gentiles are the ones that are to carry the gospel to the world, which is what we have been doing since 1820s. But the future of the church is in the Philippines, in Africa, and in Latin America. So we should see that. We should understand that right now, that's the trajectory of where things are going. And you know what? That is probably a very good thing. If the West continues to decay and essentially is in a suicide mode right now, then we need help. And that is where it will likely come from unlikely areas that you would think. But that is likely where that help is going to come from. Okay. So just an interesting thing. Now let's break these numbers down a little bit. This is coming from ldsgrowth.blogspot.com. This has been in place for about 20 years, I think, maybe earlier, maybe more than that. But there is some interesting numbers here to look at. We've got here the top, what do they have here? Top 44 places. This is where there has been an increase. 44 different countries experienced an increase in the numbers of baptisms and from baptism. So an increase in the membership in these 44 countries. Top at the very top, and it's hard to understand this as far as percentages go, but the Solomon Islands is number one. Why? Because it has a 98.7% increase. Well, there's a total of 3,232 members there now. So they had the year before around 1,600 members. And so that's, they've added about 1,600 members, which is huge. Huge. I mean, I wonder how that happened. It'd be really interesting to know. If somebody has served a mission there recently or has any information on that, please put it in the comments section because that's fascinating. 32 is the total number there. In Montenegro, they have now a total of 65. So they ended up with another 30 or more members in Montenegro, right? So this is how you see the percentages. And this is based off of percentages first, not the number in the growth. Right, that not the number of the gross percentages. Georgia, of all places, the country Georgia, 59%. There's now 500 there, so there's been an increase there of roughly a couple hundred in there. Rwanda has gone up 45%. Israel up to 422, so a couple, maybe 50 to 100 that have been added as members there. That could be everything from embassy numbers to organizations to business, etc., right? From people that are traveling. More than likely, that's where that would come from. And then you start getting into numbers here that make a little bit more sense in terms of percentages. And you'll see where a lot of these are, right? You've got Malawi, you've got Central African Republic, small place. Tanzania has now got 6,200 members. Mozambique has now got 39,000 members in that country. Saint Martin, a small island. New, I don't know where that is. Malta, of all places. Okay, small. Now here's Sierra Leone. Okay, Africa again, up 21%, almost 42,000 members in Sierra Leone. Lesotho, Angola at 8779 members. Down further here, the DR Congo, 159,000, almost 160,000 members now in the DR Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo. I went back and looked at this in 2009. So these are 2025 numbers. So 16 years ago, there were about 24,000 members. So in 16 years, this has grown 6 times plus, it looks like. 6 times plus in the DR Congo. That's pretty impressive. They've got 160,000 members as of December 31st. So that's probably well beyond that now already. Madagascar, right? Coming down to Kenya again is in here. Namibia. Other numbers are Zimbabwe is up to 52,000 members. The Republic of Congo, which is different, is at 15,000. Botswana. So you've got all of these numbers that are in, Liberia, 25,000. Zambia, 7,800. Cameroon, 3,600. A lot of these are in Africa that you have here in these 44 countries where it has increased. Now, the following here are 12 countries and territories where there was a decline in church membership for 2025. Bahrain, okay, hardly any members there. Barbados, Isle of Man, Guernsey, Armenia, the Cook Islands, Trinidad and Tobago, Netherlands, Albania, Indonesia, Jersey, and the United States. So there were 12 countries that had a decline. The United States was one of those. Now, the number there is very small. I don't remember the exact number, but it's about 180 people. So it's barely there, and that's why they've got a 0.00%. But there was a decline. Now, one thing to consider here with the United States is immigration, and with the reverse of immigration. You had a large number of immigrants that were coming through, a very large number of immigrants that were coming through in the previous years. Some of those would be members of the church. Some were converted. while they were here in the United States. And now you've got a number that have gone back to Mexico and other parts of Latin America. So you have a number of Latter-day Saints that are members of the church in the U.S. that are Latinos that have either been deported or self-deported. And that probably has an effect on that. Because again, you could, let's just say that number was 5,000. 5,000 members left and are now down in Mexico and Central and South America. That would make a very big difference. Or maybe it's 10,000. Maybe it's 20,000. I don't know. But I'm sure that number is somewhat significant. So that probably has a bearing on the numbers overall in the United States that I would guess. But still, in the U.S., that is an issue. Good numbers for the United States last year for conversions, for baptisms, not great numbers for retention. And that's the other side of things. It's a matter of retention. And why are we not holding on to more members? Why are there still so many women that are leaving the church? That is a big deal, and I'm sure something that the brethren are very focused on. I think we need a lot stronger male members in the church, to be honest. I think that would make a very big difference. So I wish there was a little more focus on that side of things. Probably a surprise to most of you that the numbers went down in the U.S. Immigration an issue, retention an issue, and honestly, culture is an issue. As culture moves further and further away, it seems to me that if we separate ourselves from that culture and make sure that we are the light upon the hill, the city of light upon the hill, and we are not down in the valley with the culture, then those that are down in the valley and can see the light up on the hill can make a clear distinction, and we'll have several of those people leave the valley and come to the city of light. I think that would make a lot of sense. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you Monday.